Okay, I am going to start with the study guide. I decided to just use whiteboard because I have found that I take up too much space on the PDF. So, hang on, I don't know what it's deciding to do here. There we go. I don't want a template. I don't want a template. There. I don't want to share my thoughts. Goodness gracious. So the first problem is actually number 1, and I noticed this is part of the review that's listed on page 378 if you need to find it in your book or anything. It is the integral 24x squared minus 8x plus 1 dx. So remember, this little symbol means integral or integrate. And for you to remember, you're going to go backwards. Okay, so from taking the derivative, you're moving backwards. So we think about x cubed, we're adding 1. And then we have to think about 3 times something equals the 24. And I know that's going to be 8 minus, repeat it. We start with the x, we add 1, going to be squared. 2 times what equals 8? That's going to be 4. If my pen will choose to write, and we're just adding an X there. Now, this is where you need to make sure that you put the C. There could be a constant there that we don't know about. The next problem that they have for us to work is number 5. Same kind of thing, the integral of 10 cubed, or no, 10, it's not 10 cubed, it's 10 cubed root, so the 3 is going here. And inside we have x squared minus 4x. Okay, dx. Oh, so it's important to get that correct. So I'm just going to rewrite this. 10 x to the 2/3 minus 4x dx. So we're working backwards. We're going to add 1 to this. So since it's a fraction, I'm going to make it a 3/3. And then I have to think about 5/3 times what equals 10. So really what I'm doing is taking 10 divided by 5/3. So 10/1 times 3/5 is going to be 6. And you can use that in a calculator. You don't have to do it that way. So now we're adding 1 to the exponent. 2 times what equals 4. So that's 2. We add our plus c, and we are finished. I have all of these worked over here, so I'm just checking myself as we go along, making sure that I'm getting you all the correct information. Okay, the next one we skip to number 15, so I'm just going to keep scrolling down. 15 is the integral of 6e to the 3x exponent minus 6/x dx. Now, I want to point out here that when you see something like this, we could rewrite that as 6 times 1/x. And that's important because we need to identify that this is the ln of x. Okay, now the trigger for that is, I've tried to do this too when we've been working together, is take that to x to the -1. But the problem is when you add the 1 to that, it goes to x to the 0. So that should be a trigger to tell you, that's not going to work. I need to use the ln of x. So we're actually going to rewrite this as 6e to the 3x minus 6 ln of x dx. Now we're going to integrate. So anything that has the e, this part stays the same, whether you're going forwards or backwards. The only thing I need to do is, since there is an exponent right here, I need to think about 3 times what equals 6. So that tells me I'm going to put a 2 in front of it, minus. This is all going to stay the same. The only thing we add is the absolute value of x, because we don't know what that is. And ln's are the same on positive or negative. And then we add the c to our answer, just like we did in our other ones. After 15, we jump to 21, which I believe is a word problem. And I'm not going to read it. You have it. Basically, what we have to think about is this equation that they give us. And I think they want us to write the equation. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we're going to integrate this because of the symbol, but we have to find out what the c is. Okay, so that we have the full formula that we need to use to solve part B. Okay, so I'm going to integrate this. So that means the e stays the same. This part all stays the same. But what I have to think about is something times this exponent, which the number I'm going to put right here, equals 15. Okay, so if you go 15 divided by 0.06 in your calculator, you're going to get 250, and that goes here. Then we have our plus c. I'm going to go ahead and set that equal to 0, because what we do here for our t, we put it at 0, because if you remember, like your y equals mx plus b, okay, to find the b, you would put in a 0 for the x and then figure out what the y is. And then that becomes, you're basically solving for your unknown, your b. And that's kind of like solving for the c here. So I'll do that in green just to kind of differentiate what we're doing here. We have 250 e to the 0.06 times 0. Remember, I'm putting 0 in for t, plus something equals 0. Okay, so when you make e to the 0, because this is going to equal 0, that equals 1. And that your calculator will tell you that if you don't remember. Okay, so 250 times 1 is 250 plus something equals 0. So I have to subtract and realize that c is going to equal a negative 250. So for part A, I'm using my formula that I differentiated or took the integral of, and I'm adding the minus 250. Okay. Now, if you read for part B, I'm going to change to purple here just so we can tell the difference. Part B is telling you whatever the scenario is, what happens when it is 250. How many years, T is the years, until we get to the 250. So that means I take this formula that I have created and I set it equal to the value that they gave me, 250. So now I'm solving for t. The first thing I'm going to do is add the 250 to each side. Okay, so I'm going to get 250 e to the 0.06 t equals 500. I'm going to then, because this is multiply, I'm going to divide by 250. So I get e equals 2. Now, this is where the only way you can solve this, and to me this is a trigonometry thing, is you take the ln of each side. Okay, so basically what you're going to do is when you take the ln, you're going to be able to, if you take the ln of this and the ln of this, then basically what you're going to get to do is you get to drop the e because they're opposites kind of. And then you get to just use the exponent. And if I take the ln of 2, that is 0. And this is just calculator work. Okay, if you put the ln of 2 in your calculator, you're going to round to 0.693. Then to solve for t, I would then divide, and basically get t equals 11.55. And to answer the question, they're rounding that to 12. They're rounding that to 12. So now I'm going to scoot this up. We're moving on to question number 23. Now this is when we start taking the integral and we're finding the area under the curve. So we have a stop and start is what I'm going to call it. Okay, so we follow our first process with going backwards to integrate. The first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this and make this x to the negative 1/2 because it's in the bottom and it's square root. So I know since it's down here, this would be x to the 1/2. And then if I move it to the top, it would be negative 1/2. So now I can integrate. So I know I'm going to put x squared. Then I have to think about 2 times what equals 1. Well, that has to be 1/2. Minus, because of this business, we're moving on. So when I add 1 to the x to the negative, that gives me x to the positive 1/2. And something times that 1/2 is going to give me 1 because there's nothing here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 2 in there because half of 2 is 1. And then since I have taken the integral, that's when I change it to this line and go from 1 to 9. Now I plug in and solve. So I'm going to kind of do that over here. So I have 1/2 9 squared minus 2 times 9 to the 1/2, or you can write that as square root. It doesn't matter. Put it in brackets because we have to do all that first. Then we're going to subtract 1/2 times 1 squared. Now I'm plugging in the 1. 2 times 1 to the 1/2. Okay, so 9 squared is 81. 1/2 times 81 is 40.5. That's all calculator work, nothing to worry about. Square root of 9 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 squared is 1. 1/2 of that is 1/2. 1 square root of that is 1, so we have minus 2. So this right here is going to be a negative 1.5, but we have this negative coming down. So we have a minus, minus. Okay, so think about that. So 40.5 minus 6 is going to be 34.5. My minus tells me to add 1.5, and that's going to give me 36. Okay, I'm limited to 15 minutes on the videos, so I'm going to try to squeeze in one more. It's a quick one, 27. We're integrating 0 to 2, e to the negative x dx. So the only thing that you have to remember is we have the negative there. Okay, so the opposite of e to the x is e to the x. So basically we take care of this negative by making the exponent a negative 1. Okay, that's all we have to do on that. So now I take negative e to the 2 minus negative e to the 0. Well, e to the 0 is 1, so we have a minus 1, but we have minus that. And so that's going to be a plus 1. We can't do anything with the negative e squared. That's a decimal or something. So basically, they're just rewriting it like that. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I dropped the negative. I think I forgot to write negative 2 on that. Okay. I'll double check that. Hang on. I have a picture of that 27 and 27. Oh, no, it's just 2. Plus. Okay, I'm going to double check the answer, but I'm going to stop the video because it'll quit here in just a second.